Diving into discussion on how GK's implementation of Oracle EPM has transformed the operational landscape for Neo Energy. This tool is not only enhancing cost management, but also streamlining processes across various business functions within the oil and gas industry, as well as many other sectors. Joining us are two industry leaders who will share their invaluable insights. Simon Tweedie, the corporate controller at Neo Energy, and Mark Wright, the director of planning solutions at GK. Simon oversees both internal and external reporting, as well as shared accounting services. With over 15 years in the oil and gas industry, Simon brings a wealth of experience, having honed his skills at a Big Four firm before making a significant impact in the corporate world. His perspective on how Oracle EPM supports Neo's financial strategies is essential for understanding the transformative journey that they have undertaken. We are also excited to welcome Mark Wright, a chartered accountant with over 20 years of experience in implementing system solutions within the financial environment. Mark combines extensive financial knowledge with an understanding of diverse business requirements. His expertise in managing collaboration and successful project outcomes makes him a key player in this discussion. In today's session, Mark and Simon will discuss four main chapters, starting with the applications of Oracle EPM and how they are used in different departments/business functions. Moving on to chapter number 2, which is where Mark and Simon will speak about the EPM solutions and their phased implementation approach. Chapter number 3 is all about the industry-agnostic overview of use and benefits from the finance team's perspective. And finally, chapter number 4, the specific themes relating to the oil and gas sector. We believe that there is a gap in understanding these topics, which is why today's session is packed with insider knowledge and insights that you do not want to miss. Let's get started.
Thanks for joining. I suppose just a bit of a background, GK have been working with Neo for a couple of years now on a couple of projects with Ed, our founder, and me, the head of planning. I wondered whether you could just give a quick overview of you and your role in Neo as a starter.
No problem, Mark. So I've been at Neo three years. I'm an accountant by background, so trained in practice, and have, prior to joining Neo, had spent 12 years in an upstream oil and gas company. My role at Neo is corporate controller, so I'm responsible for all external reporting on the finance side and aspects of the internal management accounting as well as some elements of shared service. So very interested in sort of the finance and planning side of the business.
And I suppose just to remind everyone, GK, we're quite a small niche EPM integration partner. We really try to focus on collaboration and being close to the clients and understanding their business. And as a background, we had already been at Neo working on a FP&A project with the planning team. And the second piece of work that we did for Neo was your team, so in financial controlling. I wonder if you could just explain the role that we came in to fill and what you were trying to achieve from a systems perspective.
Yes, so GK had supported Neo's planning team with their budgeting and planning process. So we were, in my team in the finance group, looking for an FP&A tool of some description to satisfy us for various management reporting aspects and analysis work. We got together with effectively GK and the planning team to review what Oracle could do, and off the back of that, we've implemented it in our finance team as well. So GK supported that implementation, and we're now live with using Oracle on an ongoing basis.
I think one of the nice things that we can probably talk through is you're in quite a unique position from a system side. You've just been through quite a heavy process to implement SAP, which was live, but you'd identified a gap in what SAP could offer. And I wonder whether you could elaborate on how Oracle helps you close that gap.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I've been at Neo for 3 years, and on joining the company, it was clear that a tool like Oracle was a gap for us. We had an accounting system, but when it came to analyzing information, modeling information, and the rigor around forecasting and budgeting, we didn't actually have a tool. We implemented SAP from the 1st of January 2023, and as a result, in our legacy system, there was no appetite to go after an FP&A tool of any description. But once we were live with our new ERP, we appraised options, and Oracle was the tool of choice after looking at what was available in the market. And for us, there was a clear synergy with having the same system as the planning team. We're not there yet, but down the line, we'll obviously try and integrate the two cubes in our business more closely than they are just now.
And I suppose the interesting point is you already had a team of SAP experts, let's say, and the knowledge for Oracle and EPM within the team was lower. I know from a personal side, you're quite a systems savvy customer anyway, which is good for us. But how did were GK able to help you with that transition?
Yeah, well, from an implementation and transition perspective, GK have, been, very, very good with us in terms of implementing the system. We were, as you mentioned, Mark, starting from no real knowledge in the team, probably outside myself, really, in terms of cube reporting systems. A couple of people had got limited experience, but GK took us from from infancy of understanding what we were actually after to determine as a tool that the finance team could use. It quickly became apparent it was, and from that point on, we were just working very closely with yourselves around the implementation. So really, from day one, understanding the business, and you guys were already, kind of ahead of the curve a little bit because you'd done some work with the Neo planning team. So taking it from there, configuring the system and upskilling the people in the finance team.
And I suppose just to reflect on what you've just said there, from a GK side, what we really like to do is to be able to work collaboratively with our clients, because I think the close working really pays dividends to make sure that the end client gets what they need, and I hope that's what you've seen at Neo. I suppose the other side of that is, I would say that the oil and gas industry is quite complex. Certainly from a Neo perspective, it's very fast moving. How did you find the progress and the project cope with that sort of complexity and fast moving dynamic?
So in terms of GK to work with, and in terms of understanding our business, I would say that, to take the first point, we really appreciated working with a relatively small niche team, that we were working with the same people through the whole life of the project, and actually continue to work with you guys in terms of the support. So established really good relationships there. And I would contrast that quite significantly with what we went through in our SAP ERP implementation, where we were working with a much bigger partner and perhaps at times struggled for continuity in other aspects. In terms of GK understanding the oil and gas business, it is quite a specific industry in terms of the accounting and KPIs that we monitor. I'm sure many industries are quite specific in their nature, but you guys, I mean, I can reflect on it very favourably in terms of you understanding the business and understanding what we were trying to do. So it didn't feel, certainly from my perspective, that we had to put a whole lot of effort into educating you around some of the industry specifics. You either understood them already, maybe courtesy of the work with the planning team, or else picked them up relatively quickly. And that's probably testament, I guess, just to the experience you've got in your team and the accounting backgrounds of the guys.
Thank you. I'll take the compliment. Thank you. I suppose just reflecting on that from an internal perspective, I think we're fairly used to seeing clients who try to choose between a large organisation or maybe a niche one. Did you have any internal issues or complexities around choosing a niche consultancy?
I don't think so. I mean, from my perspective, in a way, we were already working with GK, so it wasn't myself that it kicked off the relationship, but we had on the planning side at least one, I would say, failed implementation of another system that started and didn't go anywhere, and then the planning side of the business had a successful relationship with you in terms of implementing their planning cube. So it was an obvious choice for us, but on reflection, having experienced both a larger partner, as I'd mentioned, around our SAP ERP system implementation, and a more boutique niche firm on this piece of work, I would probably be fair to say I prefer the latter in terms of the quality of service you get and the relationships you develop.
That's great. I suppose we should just step back and look at what we've implemented from a Neo perspective and what Oracle's currently doing. Oracle EPM has been the market leader for almost since Gartner started benchmarking ERP systems and EPM. And there's a whole wealth of functionality that we don't currently use. Moving forward, and are you happy with the sort of the potential scope of EPM and using Oracle for more functionality in the future?
So in terms of how we use Oracle at present and going forward, I would say that I had some very strong views on the minimum that I wanted to deliver from a tool like Oracle when we were considering options. Fair to say that we did reflect on certain other options in the marketplace, and we didn't find anything that ticked the standard boxes that I was looking for. So there were other systems out there that were potentially more geared towards dashboarding and other things. But in terms of what I'd consider the nuts and bolts of what we actually wanted in terms of integration with Excel, clear rigor around budgeting, forecasting, and the ability to model, Oracle did all of that. Clearly, you can only get so much from a scoping exercise, but as we've matured through the project, been more than happy that all the fundamental things that we wanted to cover are addressed by Oracle EPM. And beyond that, I think it's fair to say that we're still learning about the capabilities and complexities of Oracle in terms of what it can offer. And that's really where we're sort of looking to GK in any future steps or processes. It's fair to say that there's probably a lot of functionality that we could use and are maybe not using just now, but that's fine. We've delivered what we want to do in the first instance, and then we'll look to the future in terms of what other things we could implement.
And I suppose just one further question on that. So there's as we both said, there's lots of functionality there in Oracle. Sometimes for some users, obviously you have a whole breadth of different type of user within your team, and that's what clients always have. How's the uptake and the adoption of Oracle been for the whole spectrum of people? So from advanced users like yourself, maybe to users who are less familiar with ERP systems and EPM systems.
So in terms of the uptake in the team, it's fairly early days for us, but for certain aspects of the team, it's definitely been transformational. So the bit that I was really keen in the first instance to deliver through our Oracle EPM implementation was the ability of the team to analyze information. We do a lot of cost analysis in Neo. So actually having a tool that helps you manipulate data effectively, interrogate it, and deal with budget holders in the business and similar is really important. We've definitely delivered that for some of the team. Where we've still to mature is on the use of the functionality around probably forecasting and routine archiving, and it's early days, but we are using it. And I think what I see is the more people in the team invest time in understanding the capabilities of the tool, the more they appreciate what they can get out of it and why it is much, much better than, for example, extracting information out of our ERP system into a spreadsheet and analyzing that way. So early days, but looking good so far.
Yeah, and I suppose one last reflection from my side on what you've just said. I think having been through with your team all of the training and having that close relationship, so doing face-to-face training, being in the room and helping people understand the process rather than just a the steps of clicking a button and getting the end result out by not really thinking. I think that pays dividends, and I hope that's what you've experienced as well.
Yeah, so in terms of training support from GK, I think it's fair to say it's pretty hands-on. It wasn't a case of delivering a standard suite of training. What we experienced was very much an interactive kind of workshop environment, and it was pretty bespoke in terms of arranging individual sessions with individual teams to understand what they needed, and we were dealing with people that had varying degrees of understanding of a system like Oracle. So some people you had to start right at the start, and others you could assume a bit more knowledge. But from a GK support perspective, it's been very flexible. So during the period of hypercare and prior to hypercare, there was a lot of time invested one-to-one with the individual teams, and that's been good.
Right, and I suppose just to start wrapping up, I mean, it's great to spend the time with you, have the implementation going well, and see people actually benefiting from using the system. What would you say your biggest learning points from the implementation have been? What would you advise other potential adopters of Oracle EPM to think about?
If I was advising anyone else in terms of implementing the system, I think the main piece is really to think about the configuration of the system up front and invest time in terms of what you're really trying to do. There is a trade-off between having a lot of detail in the system, multiple dimensions, etc., for interrogation, versus keeping it more straightforward and simple. Similarly, within that, there can be certain complexities that need a lot of thought before you go live. So I would reflect favourably on the effort we put into setting up and configuring the system, and GK were good in terms of supporting that and evidencing understanding of what we were trying to do.
And I suppose I should ask the question the other way around: is there anything that you would do differently that you've taken away as a learning of that could have been better?
I don't think so. I think that in terms of doing anything differently, my main thing, and it's an ongoing thing, is just to ensure that users are suitably trained and appreciate the capabilities of the system, because I'm pretty comfortable that once they do and know how to utilize it, it's a definite benefit to anyone that's interrogating information, and adds a lot of rigor to the processes around budgeting and reporting. But you do need to know what you're doing, and it does take an element of time to develop the skills to utilize the system effectively.
Yeah, that's great. I suppose it would be remiss of me not to mention the fact that we also support you on an ongoing basis, and I think that's an important point to note. The implementation can stop and you can go live with the system, but the system never stands still, and hopefully you feel that we're holding your hand all the way through the ongoing process.
In terms of GK support, we went through a process of hypercare immediately after the go live, which was great, and as you say, Mark, we're now in a period of ongoing support. So it's good again that we've got the same people on the end of the phone or at the end of a call that we went through the project with, that understand the business and the way the Oracle was configured. So the support aspects are going well so far, and we're considering further phases of our project now.